Welcome to the TriDot podcast. Today, we are talking through the 7 ways a triathlete can prevent burnout. I've got 2 excellent coaches for this conversation, Stephen Horan, head coach of Iron Mind Endurance, and Matt Davies from Precision Coaching. Both join the show to help us enjoy the triathlon lifestyle season after season after season without getting burnt out and dropping off and going to a different hobby. I'm Andrew, the average triathlete, voice of the people, and captain of the middle of the pack. We treat the show like any good workout. We'll start with the warm-up question, settle into our main set conversation, and then wind things down by having our coaches answer an audience question on the cooldown. Lots of good stuff. Let's get to it.
This is the TriDot podcast, the triathlon show that brings you world-class coaching with every conversation. Let's get started with today's warm-up.
All right, Coach Matt, Coach Steven, when an athlete joins TriDot, as they onboard, there's a couple really fun questions they're prompted to answer. And some of those questions is, how long have you been a runner, a swimmer, a cyclist, and a triathlete? And that kind of identifies in the system what we call an athlete's sport age. And it's just one of the many factors that goes into building an athlete's training. And so I'm just kind of curious to hear from you guys and to hear from our audience as well. How long have you been a swimmer, a cyclist, a runner, and a triathlete? Coach Matt, kicking us over to you first.
Yeah, cheers, Andrew. First up, I was a swimmer as a kid. I was fairly decent back at sort of school age. But at 5'9" on a good day, I realized at quite an early age that I'm never going to.
You had some limitations.
Those giants. Yeah. So I was actually much better at breaststroke. So I swam at sort of county level and did a bit of breaststroke. And until fairly recently, in fact, until I went along to TriDot Pool School, I could still do 100 quicker breaststroke than I could freestyle.
Wow.
That I fixed that at pool school, but that was a limitation. So I swam for a long time, but gave it up because of the fact that when I stood on deck, I came up to roughly the top of their short line and realized I'm never going to beat these guys.
Yeah.
So 30 plus years as a swimmer, I guess, on TriDot. Did loads of road marathons. So I did quite a lot of running in kind of middle of those years. So probably a runner for 20 years. And cycling, I only took up cycling when I decided to take up triathlon. So 5 or 6 years ago. I was one of those guys that had never ridden a bike with clip-in pedals and just decided to go do an Ironman.
Yep. Yeah, same for me. My numbers are all the same except for running. I was a runner first. When I got out of high school and got into college, I just started running to stay in shape. And so I've been a runner for 19 years. So you can do some math on when Andrew graduated high school and went to college. It was 19 years ago. And then all 3 of the other sports, swimming, cycling, and triathlon, all came in the same year. Because once I started swimming at the pool at the local gym, it was like, oh, I kind of like this. And then shortly after, signed up for my first triathlon and bought a bike, became a cyclist. And so that's 11 years for me that I've been in triathlon, swimming and cycling as well. So my numbers are 11, 11, 19, and 11. Coach Steven, over to you.
So very similar to you, Andrew.
Nice.
Am not a swimmer grade. So I picked up swimming and biking when I started my whole triathlon career back in really 2002. So again, kind of when you look at that, thinking, kind of 13 years to be able to do that. Now, that is not 13 years, right? But I guess 23 years in that sense. But I was a runner kind of by trade, and I started running in 1992, did my first marathon in 1996. So kind of been doing that for kind of a fairly long period. But like I said, I was not a swimmer. I mean, I did swim as a child, but not competitively. And so I had to learn to swim. I had to really learn to bike. We all have, well, I shouldn't say all, but we have bikes that we can kind of jump around to be able to do. But I was not somebody to be able to go clip in, had to go buy a bike, and had to be able to get all of that pulled together when I started triathlons.
Yeah, no, very, very good. I'm excited to see what our audience has to say here. So if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're watching this on Spotify, let us know in the comments below. How long have you been a cyclist? How long have you been a swimmer? How long have you been a runner? What is your sport age, so to speak? Very excited to see what you guys have to say. You can also find a post on all of our social media accounts. We'll blast this question out to find out from you guys. How long have you been in the sport? Curious to see what you guys have to say.
Let's go.
On to our main set where myself, Coach Steven, Coach Matt, we're going to be discussing burnout. If you're in this sport, you hopefully want to stay in this sport for a hot minute, and we would like to see that happen. TriDot training certainly can help make that happen, and hopefully the advice of our coaches today can help make that happen as well. And so in just a few moments, we're going to walk through what we've identified as a panel, the three of us, as the 7 ways to prevent burnout in triathlon. And guys, as we just talked about, the three of us have been in this sport for a while now. We've been swimming, biking, running, triathloning for a little bit. None of us are new to it, and we're all still here enjoying it and racing. So I'm just curious to kind of get the conversation rolling. Have either of you ever felt a moment in your triathlon journey where you felt a little burned out on the sport? Coach Steven, over to you. The first time, guys, if you haven't heard, Coach Steven came on the podcast, and the first time he was on the podcast was a few episodes ago, and he talked to us about the 20 lessons he's learned from his 20 full distance Ironman races. So, Steven, you've done a little bit of racing yourself to kind of pull from here. Along the way, did you ever feel burnt out on Tri?
Yeah, I mean, again, I highlighted, I've been doing triathlons for about 24 years, kind of gone through all the cycles of ups and downs. So I think that burnout, lack of motivation, really occurs for everyone. And I think, it's something you have to manage as an athlete to be able to kind of continue forward. But I did find, and we'll go through some of these a little bit, but, really it was the community that kind of helped pull me along in a lot of it, especially at the very beginning, because it was like, hey, yeah, you're getting all these gains, you're able to move forward. But like when it started and I didn't have people working with me at times in the community, I was like, okay, why am I doing this? Why do I want to continue forward? So it is something I think everyone's going to run into. And I think as we go through that today, we'll find that there's really some good ways to be able to help kind of keep from burning out.
Yeah, I think I've seen friends of mine come into the sport after I did. I've seen new TriDot athletes come along that I get to know at races or get to know, through the TriDot community, and I see them jump in with so much enthusiasm, and they go so hard on this new hobby they found, and they do every workout to the T. They sign up for 10 races a year, and it's just, and I look at them like, I don't know if this is going to be sustainable for you. And sometimes they flame out. Sometimes they kind of learn how to pace themselves for a long triathlon journey and not a quick triathlon journey. Anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. Coach Matt, same question over to you. Just in your years in the sport, have you ever encountered any feelings of burnout along the way?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was probably more with the burnout with the running because I was doing quite a lot of road marathons, and that kind of it just no longer presented a challenge, I guess, and that's kind of why I ended up in triathlon, was looking
Okay.
for something different. So for me, burnout definitely is a thing with my athletes. I label it slightly more as kind of boredom of just if the challenge remains the same year after year after year, that's where it becomes boredom slash burnout. And I definitely had it in my running and was searching for something more. So first I found ultra running and then I found triathlon. So yeah, it was more boredom than burnout, but definitely been there.
Yeah, and for me, I've had one season where I really felt this way, and longtime listeners of the podcast will probably have heard me express this, but I did my first Ironman in 2022, and I signed up for that first Ironman in 2019. And we all know what happens in between, right? A lot of races were canceled. And for me in particular, I was signed up for Ironman Texas, and that sucker got canceled twice in a row. And so I went through the training cycle for an Ironman 2 years in a row and didn't get to do my Ironman. And so I'm 2.5 years into training for a full distance race before I finally got to do the thing. And so, like, a lot of athletes will do like a 4 month, 5 month, 6 month training cycle to gear up for an Ironman. I did that for 2.5 years, trying to stay in Ironman mindset to finally do a freaking 140.6, mile race. And I finally got to do it and checked it off the bucket list. But along the way, like, man, I got real sick of that long training. And I got real sick of just that one specific race being in the front of my mind day after day, week after week, training session after training session. And when I got on the other side of that, like, man, I was burned out on the daily grind of the training because it takes a lot of effort, mental load, physical load. It can be a grind if you don't have a certain motivation in mind. And we'll talk along the episode today, but I kind of combated that with mixing up my races after that, going back to some short course, sprinkling in some relays, having some fun with the sport again. But yeah, I got through that Ironman, and I didn't want to touch a training session for a while. And I literally have a triathlon podcast, so I did, right. I stayed in the sport and stuck with it. But yeah, so that's the one time I felt this was very specifically tied to that experience of training for years for one specific race before I finally got to do the thing. And that man, that really burned me for a little bit there on the sport. And it took me a little while to get to a really healthy place of wanting to wake up and go do my training every single day. But as you guys coach your own athletes and kind of have conversations with your own triathlon friends, peers, fellow coaches, what are you hearing from athletes that are a bit burned out? What are kind of the warning signs of what burnout looks like? What are they feeling when they are burnt out? Why do you think athletes encounter burnout for one reason or another? Coach Steven?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing I'm hearing from athletes, it's like really trying to like, hey, I'm not hitting my goals. I'm not able to go do that. And I think one of those things that I'm finding and how I try to coach my athletes is really talking about like not focusing on the outcome, but focusing on the process. Right. And I find that, we get so stuck in the outcome. Oh, I got to hit this goal. I got to hit this race. And, if you're not doing it, we're finding athletes just kind of back away and say, hey, yeah, I can't go do this. And what I try to really hope and kind of motivate people to be able to go do is to kind of really focus more about that process. And the other thing that I also find is, Strava's awesome, so you can be able to go and link with community. But
Yeah.
so many people get so involved with like, oh, this person is doing this, and why am I not at this level? And trying to get people to really focus on themselves and not everyone else. And continuing to have that benchmark in front of themselves, like, hey, this other person, my age group, they're able to go do it. I mean, you don't know everything that you're doing. And the great thing with TriDot, right, is we're helping manage the overall process and making sure we're not overdoing it and doing the right training right. But when you see somebody else doing 100 miles every week for 6 weeks at a time, it just like it almost sets that aspect and the mental aspect for the individual. It's like, why am I not doing it? And so it almost like demotivates them at the same time. And so I really try to help my athletes try to think beyond themselves, or excuse me, beyond the others, and just focus on themselves. And also ensuring that they're really not just focusing on the outcome, but really that overall process.
Yeah, love that. And Coach Matt, same question over to you as you're talking with peers, coaches, athletes you work with. What are you hearing when they say, "Hey, Coach Matt, I'm feeling a little burned out"?
For sure, with athletes, the one thing I hear most is that they've kind of almost forgotten why they're doing
Hmm.
it. Right? They came in. Most people come into this sport with such a strong, passionate reason why. Like it might just be I want to become an Ironman, or it might be prove to my kids anything's possible. Whatever that thing is, and once you've done it once or twice and maybe gone a little bit better, a little bit faster, they've kind of they almost need to come and find a new why. But if they haven't done that and they've just ticked that box already, it becomes a hell of a lot harder when that alarm goes off at 5 a.m. and you've got that. Especially here in the UK, we're talking about the UK winters and stuff. When you've got to go out at 5 a.m. into sleet and rain and kind of miserable weather, if you've lost that why, or that's no longer there pushing you, it's a hell of a lot easier to feel burnt out and sort of slightly disenfranchised with it. So yeah, I try and get my guys to rethink at the end of each season, what's the why, what's the driving force.
Let's get into the 7 ways to prevent burnout. The three of us have been on Microsoft Teams, pinging messages back and forth, narrowing down our list of what we've identified as 7 things athletes can do to help prevent burnout, help reignite, spark joy, spark enthusiasm for our training again. And I'm just going to introduce these one by one and just hear what you two have to say about these. So, way to prevent burnout number one is to take periodic breaks from structured training. Now, at TriDot, we obviously very much believe in the power of structured training to keep you healthy and to keep you performing well and to keep you enjoying the sport. But yeah, 365 days of structured training can lead to burnout. Guys, talk about how an athlete and why an athlete can and should maybe take a break here and there. Coach Steven.
Yeah, I mean, this is both physically and mentally important, right? I mean, I think we have to realize there's a physical side, and TriDot does a really good job so we can continue producing physically. So I'm really good from that standpoint, but from a mental standpoint, taking that break is really important. And I'll just use my example of this year, right? I mean, I always try to come off of a race. I try to do a little bit of celebration right afterwards. I try to take about 2 weeks overall to kind of just really break away mentally, get away from that really structured training. Yes, TriDot backs you down to zone 2, but like go do something a little different, right? It doesn't mean you got to jump up a bike every single time and really trying to think about that. So, and also, I mean, I also get rid of my watch during that time. And I find that
Okay.
structure breaking that away a little bit also helps because we get so locked into, hey, I got to do this pace, I got to do this heart rate, I got to be able to go do it, and really trying to break away from there and just almost getting back to the fun of it again, right? I mean, I really find that structured break makes a big difference in me mentally to be able to kind of ensure that I'm able to kind of continue on and then go to that next session and really that next cycle of training.
Yeah, I really like that. And so Steven, just to be clear, it's kind of whenever you have like a big A race, you kind of take the next couple weeks to
Yeah,
just have fun with the sport, not tick every single training box, not worry about your training score, not
correct.
even wearing the garment, right? Just enjoying after those big A races.
Yeah, that's typically how I try to approach it. And again, I mean, I mean, now we'll talk through. I mean, if you find yourself getting into it where you're feeling burned out, even as prep for that, I think that's another good strategy to be able to just kind of back away, take about 2 weeks, really to kind of just reset yourself and to be able to kind of get away. But yeah, I mean, sometimes, I use my A races and then that break afterwards, and it's been able to help me continue on to be able to then set that next day race and be able to get them in place.
Yeah, and I could see an athlete, Steven, just kind of like taking that mindset, and even if it's not after like a big A race, like if it's just kind of like, oh, I know I'm going to unplug for a week or two around the holidays. Or, oh, I know I'm going to unplug for a week or two in the middle of the summer for family vacation week, right? Like just kind of identifying, we all, I think there's this natural mindset that, oh, there's in season and there's off season. In the off season, I'm going to take a long break, and in season, I'm just going to train constantly. But you don't have to do it that way. You can kind of give yourself almost micro breaks, is what you're suggesting at the right, whatever cadence makes sense
Correct.
for you, to just unplug from the structured training, have some fun. And to be clear, I'll say this, and then I'll kick it over to Matt for his thoughts. To be clear, a very cool thing with TriDot is with TriDot training, you don't have to take an off season. You don't have to take off days every single week. You don't have to take big breaks because unlike traditional training methodologies, TriDot drips the training in just right every single day. It's managing your training stress just right every single day to where an athlete can't train 365 days a year for years and not get injured, not get overtrained, not get physically drained. But like Coach Steven is saying, sometimes you just need a mental unplug for that motivation to reset your desire to do the sport. So athletes are surprised sometimes. They come over to TriDot and they kind of get through their race season and they get to that first what could be an off season and say, hey, wait, TriDot has me training every day still. What's going on? Because they're so used to taking an off season when you don't actually need it. So anyway, so that's where we're talking here very much about managing that for yourself and recognizing in yourself what are good times of year just to unplug for a week here, a week there, to keep your motivation topped off and to keep your mind uh, 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 fresh for the grind, so to speak. So anyway, just wanted to say that about TriDot. We're not saying you have to take breaks from structured training because the structured training is very, very, very well programmed. Anyway, Coach Matt, same thing over to you. When you hear this tip on how to prevent burnout, taking periodic breaks from structured training, how do you implement this with your athletes through the season?
Yeah, I mean, look, I resonate a lot with what Stephen was saying, but I can see and hear triathletes around the world coming out in hives at the thought of doing a workout that isn't recorded on Strava. Although if they run with a Garmin at the moment, that could be happening very soon anyway. But off topic. Um, yeah, like I tell my guys exactly that. Physically, you don't need to. This training that I'm gonna program via the platform is gonna be the right training for you to keep going. But sometimes people just want to get off the hamster wheel, right? They want
Yeah.
to take that mental break. So it's a balance, and I try and get my guys to think of it like a bit of a pick and mix as well. So take that, if you know the recovery week is vital to help you kind of begin to feel human again after a big A race. So some nice zone 2 stuff that's in the plan, but just try to disassociate that mentality of every single workout needs to be hit to get there, to actually now you have for a couple of weeks you've got a choice. Do some of the workouts, miss some of the workouts. If it's a 60-minute zone 2 bike and you only feel like doing 30 minutes, then follow what's there, but just don't do all of it. Just try to take that mental pressure away, um, without feeling the need. Yeah, with trying to take that mental kind of drive away, but still keeping the body moving so that you're not completely going sideways.
Yep, and just to put any athlete at ease, a lot of triathletes, especially triathletes that listen to a triathlon podcast and sign up for structured training, and have coaches. We have a lot of Type A personalities, right? That like ticking the boxes, like doing everything exactly how it's prescribed. So just to put people's minds at ease, if someone takes a week off, 2 weeks off, moves the body a little bit, isn't following their training. Um, Coach Matt, are we losing fitness in that time? Like, how long do we have to be on the sidelines before we start losing fitness?
I mean, it will vary athlete to athlete, and I guess it depends largely how much of that 2 weeks is a complete break and how much am I still dipping in and doing little bits. Regardless of how much you lose, if you need that break mentally, you need it. Simple as that. If you go backwards a little bit, then frankly, if it's your last big A race for the season and there's nothing coming up till next year, it will come back really, really quickly. Um, there's no kind of fixed number. Oh, you'll drop 10% of fitness in 2 weeks or whatever it is. It really does vary, but whatever the number is for you as an athlete, you will get it back remarkably quickly. It will be a lot harder to get it back if you force yourself, bloody mindedly force yourself to keep going and then break down mentally further down the line and take a break then at a more critical part of your training because you haven't had that break in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, really, really good. Moving on to way to prevent burnout number two. This is to add variety to your training. Um, for me, and I imagine a lot of the athletes listening, and you guys as coaches can certainly weigh in. That there's certain sessions I like going and doing on a track, or I like doing upstairs on Zwift and erg mode, or I like doing at the pool versus in open water. And um, when we're trying to do every workout as well as we can, sometimes it can be a little hard to work variety in there. Right? We just find ourselves doing in the same training environments time after time, day after day. But how can we add variety into our training routine while doing the training right, just to keep things fresh and help prevent burnout? Coach Matt, what do you think?
So specifically, particularly for the zone 2 stuff where we're really just trying to build that endurance engine, the heart and lungs kind of don't really know why they're in zone 2. They're just in zone 2, right? So if you're really, really searching for a bit of variety, jump on a rower, jump on a static bike, even just a static bike in the gym versus a static bike at home, just to give you that different environment, the feeling of training around people. Um, yeah, just even tiny little changes of variety can mentally make a big difference. And yeah, particularly on those zone 2 sessions, if you do 60 minutes on the rower at zone 2 versus 60-minute on the cross trainer versus 60 minutes on a treadmill, the physiological benefits are very similar. You're still getting much the same benefits from a physiological point of view, but you're mentally doing something a little different.
Yeah, Coach Steven, same question over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with Matt, what he's talking about. The other thing I want to just highlight, right? I mean, I do think just very traditionally, a lot of athletes just go in and say, "Hey, I got to go do long rides. I got to go do, long, just long runs." And that was one of the things when I started running, that's all I did, right? I didn't vary some of the intensities. So I think that's an important part also. TriDot does a really good job varying intensities just to kind of change it up. So you're not doing the same workouts all the time, every single time. I also really appreciate Matt's input there, right? In the sense of, hey, changing the locations is massive, right? I mean,
Yeah,
going in
100%.
pain cave when it's in the winter and it's sleet outside, you're like, hey, that sucks. And so being able to go and change that up and to be able to kind of have fun. I mean, the great thing from when I started to where we are today is you can train with others now also virtually. So that also helps a lot, kind of break some of that monotony by training with others, getting other people involved also, because I think that makes a big difference, right? By varying that training up, because sometimes we get stuck in the rut and say, I got to go run the treadmill this day. I got to go hit my bike in the basement this day, And it's once you get into that routine, breaking that and changing that makes the biggest difference in the world. And you're like, man, this is fun. The other thing is like, I mean, I think this is a perfect opportunity because zone two, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, go run the trails, go do
Yeah.
something different because that gives a very different aspect and just kind of changes it up. Because I know when I'm training hardcore for an Ironman, you're doing the same routes all the time. So switch it up, take a little bit of time and go differently into different places because power is power, right? And heart rate is heart rate, right? So it doesn't matter where you're doing it from an overall terrain standpoint, and just kind of getting that differences makes a big change overall, makes it easier so you're not getting burned out.
Yeah, for me this looks like but the way I do this personally as an athlete, and someone listening can certainly follow this, or you can do it a little differently than I do. But I try to approach it where when I have a big A race on the calendar and I got a goal for that race, I try to stick to my training like to the T as
Yes.
every single session as often as I can. Not and it's not that I won't like if I get an invite for a group ride on a holiday, or if I get an invite to go for a trail run, like I might go here and there. But I 99% of the time am doing my sessions in the best possible way. When I don't have that big A race, or I get on the other side of that A race, or I'm 10 months out from an A race, but I've got some C races coming up. Like that's where I make sure I'm adding more variety to my workouts. Way to prevent burnout number 3 is to do races. Sign up for races. Go do races, and the follow up here: make those races fun. Right? Not every race has to be like a super serious big goal. I've got to be fast. I've got to be strong. I've got to crush it. A race, like you can have some fun, some in there for funsies. So as you guys are talking with your athletes, and you're talking about the races they're going to do on the calendar, what do you tell them about races in terms of preventing burnout?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, number one, I think getting a race on the calendar always helps motivate, right?
Yeah.
Period. Whether it's like, hey, I want to go super fast. Hey, I mean, it just almost holds you accountable inadvertently because it's there in place, right? So I really try to motivate all of my athletes to get a race scheduled as soon as possible, and if you can, even before your race is actually in place, like your A race is complete. So I think that becomes really important. The other thing, and I agree with you, Andrew, right? I mean, if you can find a race to be able to go have fun, a racecation, having something there just makes it very different, right? And so almost alleviating saying, hey, I'm going to this area, going to Europe, and I'm just going to go have fun to be able to go do it versus kind of having that target race time. So again, having that race scheduled as soon as possible, I find really just helps, and even me just motivates me to that next one. Like I already signed up before my A race this year for my race next year, right? And just keep those calendars rolling with those races.
Yeah, and it's honestly, when I go back to that season of burnout that I had, where I finally got through freaking Ironman Waco. I became an Ironman after 3 years of training for Ironman. What really re-sparked my drive to train was a full month later. Maybe it was a month, almost 2 months later. A bunch of us from TriDot went down to Daytona, Florida, and did Clash Daytona. We talked about it on the podcast a lot. Really cool race where you're riding your bike and you're running around Daytona Motor Speedway. And for me, it was being out on that race course. I had done some training between now and then, but I wasn't like really in shape or really, trying to. I wasn't following all my training. I was a little burnt out. But I'm out on that race course, like in the middle of the race, dying because I wasn't really trained for it. But it was like, oh yeah, this is really freaking fun. Like this is why like I'm in this sport. This is so much fun. There's TriDotters cheering me on in and out of transitions. I had friends at that race and yeah, getting back on a race course in a non-serious way for me kind of was that jump start that got me excited about my next season.
Yeah, so a couple of good examples, and one of them actually involves Clash Daytona. So I've got
Yes.
a really young female athlete over in America, collegiate sort of level, nationals level, and last year she had probably too many races in the calendar, to be honest. But what we had to do was try and take the A race mentality away from some of them. So lots of races is good, Stephen. I totally agree that having a race there is great to keep that focus, but only if you can treat some of them as
Yes.
genuine C races and some of them as A races. And we agreed at her final race of the season this year that we would measure success in how many smiles, not how many miles, I think was how we
Love
phrased
it.
it.
Yeah, I love
Um,
it.
and I just said, I want to get like 15 pictures of friends and family taking photos of you on the way round. And if you're not smiling in every one of them, then I consider this a failure. Whether you win it or come last, like that is the target. And she loved it, absolutely loved it. So that's a really kind of, yeah, lots of races definitely helped, but only if you then treat some of them as fun and not get sucked into that, oh my God, I need to perform at my absolute best for every one of them. Because then I think it can have the opposite effect.
Yeah, spiles, not
And then the
miles.
other,
I love that.
yeah, sorry. And then I've got one other guy, a guy I'm currently coaching in Italy who's done 2 or 3 Ironmans. His train X in the final 4 weeks leading up to his most recent one was 9. Um, we kept getting on, calls. We kept trying to kind of G him up, and he just wasn't just couldn't get going. And he was one of those athletes that, as a coach, we see them all the time where they come along and they train with you, and then after a while they go, "Thanks very much, coach. Loved working with you, but my time is done." And I really thought with this athlete that was going to be the conversation because it was so clear in the run up that he just wasn't there. And for him, we had to sit down, relook at that why, but also he's gone away and come up with a new challenge. He said, "Ironman just doesn't scare me anymore. I need a bit of fear as well as a bit of excitement." So he's gone away and come up with a challenge. He wants to do it local to him in Italy: swim 28K open water from an island across to the coast where he lives, 1,000 kilometers on gravel bike, piecing together some different rides he's always wanted to do, and then a 250K ultra marathon at the end because he needed that totally fresh look. So there was no race out there that did that. So he's come up with his own. And approximately halfway through the email, when he explained it all to me, I had already replied and said I'm in. So I've committed to I'm doing that with him next year as well. Because it reminds me a bit of when I was doing a road marathon after road marathon and getting that fatigue. So more if I just signed up for more and more road marathons, the fatigue would have increased gradually with each one. But by mixing it up and finding new races that are different races and different challenges, that can be a real motivator as well.
Yeah, I want to be very clear. There are certainly athletes out there that just somehow always have motivation, and just there's triathletes that love Ironman, that full distance. There's triathletes that love just doing sprints or love just doing 70.3, and there's runners that are just junkies for the marathon. Like there's people that like can just do the same race distance over and over, time after time, and never get tired of it. Good for you. I love that. Happy for you. For the rest of us, Matt, I love what you just said. Like it's good. We just talked about variety in training. It's good to have variety in your racing. If you're only doing local sprints, eventually that might start feeling a little tired. If you're only doing, Ironman or 70.3, that might start feeling a little tired. Mix it up. Like when I started kind of coming back to racing after that Ironman, my next couple races was half distance at Clash Daytona. I did a relay at like a draft legal sprint distance relay, like super sprint relay at USAT Nationals. I did a relay at a middle distance race. Um, I did a local Olympic. Like I mixed up what I was doing because I was so burnt out on training for full distance for a while, and that can be good. I've seen a lot of TriDotters just that I'm friends with on social media. They'll do triathlon for a while. They'll be neck deep in it, and all of a sudden, for a couple months, I just see them posting about trail running, and they'll do an
Hmm.
ultra trail run or two, and then all of a sudden I see them registering for an Ironman again. And so it's a good thing to add that variety, keep your endurance sports experience fresh and exciting. There's a lot out there to do, and just always come back to triathlon because we love you and we want to see you doing that. Way to prevent burnout number 4 is to engage with the triathlon community. Coach Steven, talk to us about this.
Yeah, I mean, I this is probably what's motivated me the most to be able to continue on. And you know, as especially as long as I've been in, I've gone through cycles where I like lose people and then you get new people starting. But I mean, continuing to have that social ability, right, and bringing people along. I mean, one of the things I've also found is like creating kind of group racing, right, and that also helps because you're getting people aligned with you on the racing that you're doing, and then you're going as a family and community together for races. So I think that's a big part. The other part is giving back. So I think, it's not just kind of working out and training with others, but also trying to give back. I mean, I always find that giving is sometimes better than receiving.
Yeah,
And in
I
that
love
sense,
this.
giving that back just really almost motivates you. You find like what the passion is for others, and that passion becomes contagious even back to you. And so when you kind of see that excitement again, I think it makes a big difference. So I think it's both with kind of working out with others, training with others, racing with others, but also kind of going out and giving back to that overall community. So I just find it really helps, and I try to help motivate athletes to be able to think this way.
I love, Stephen, the notion of giving back because there's been so many times where I've traveled to the races for TriDot. And in a lot of those races, like if we have enough of us there from staff or just TriDot athletes, like we'll volunteer together. Like we'll either run an aid station together or we'll man T1 or T2 together. And it is like I can have 4 or 5 races on the calendar, and if I'm at a race volunteering, you just get the itch, right? You get the itch to sign up for another race because you're like, man, like
Yeah.
this is so fun just being a part of this. And yeah, just going to a race event without the pressure of racing yourself, whether it's just to cheer or to volunteer, man, yeah, it really reminds you of why you love this and what that atmosphere is on race day. Um, Coach Matt, what do you think here, just in terms of engaging with the tri community as a way of preventing burnout, staying excited about the sport?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, again, like we're all different as athletes. There are a few out there who like to be that lone wolf and just, the
Yeah,
idea of
yeah,
joining
sure,
a community
yeah,
is against it. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
yeah.
Personally, I'm all about the community. Obviously, TriDot has its very vibrant community, and I've got quite a few athletes in the US actually, and I love the fact that I can't fly over and go and watch them race, but I know that there's a family of TriDot coaches over there that I can plug them into. And I've done that quite successfully with a few different athletes this year. But with the same at Precision Coaching, we've got quite a big community. We do Tuesday morning, Thursday evening Zwift rides where we're just on Discord, and just suffering on your own is miserable, but suffering in a group of people just somehow seems that little bit less painful, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that side of community is great. And next year, I mean, Precision, we're targeting races where we're encouraging our athletes to go do the same race, and yeah, feeling like you've almost taken over and having 20 of us in kit or 30 of us in kit is such a great feeling. Um, we're doing a couple of UK races, and 6 of my athletes have decided to come and race Vitoria-Gasteiz with me in northern Spain. I like to think that's because of the community angle. I fear that it's
I think
because all
so.
6 of them just well, I fear that it's more because they all just want to come and smash the coach, which is helping to motivate my training a little. But yeah, undoubtedly it's going to be amazing, and I'm already like, if ever I have a Monday morning when I'm like another ride to get up and do at 5 a.m. Partly the idea of being beaten by all my athletes, but partly the idea of that how fun that weekend is going to be. It drives me on. So yeah, if you're feeling that burnout, then get involved in the community, and undoubtedly it will help.
Yeah, and we were just talking about adding variety to your races. I mean, it absolutely adds variety and flavor and life to your race weekend when you've got a couple dozen members of your team, of your group, of any kind of group that you're plugged in with. It definitely adds a layer to race weekend. I'm an introvert, which people are surprised by me being a podcast host. I love conversation with a few people at a time, like this. I hate walking into a room and making small talk for with 100 people for an hour. But anyway, I was surprised how much when I'd done triathlon for a few years. I just kind of, I rolled into the weekend. My wife was there with me, and I do a local sprint, and then we go home. And when I finally joined a local team and started kind of making friends in that local team and seeing them, hanging out with them before the race and transition as you're setting up your gear and hanging out poolside before y'all jump in the pool together, waving on the race course, like it added this layer to the race that I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did. And now being a part of TriDot, I have that on a global scale, right? Which is amazing. So yeah, really like this one. We've got 3 to go, and way to prevent burnout number 5. Grab your wallets. It's retail therapy. Coach Matt, talk to us about retail therapy, igniting a passion for our training.
Yeah, look, absolutely. The best way to make a small fortune is to start with a big one and take up triathlon, right? Um,
Yeah,
there's no there's no shortage of things that we can buy that we think are going to make us faster, and lots of them do. You can buy speed. It's a fallacy that you can't buy speed. The question is sometimes, is it worth the money that I'm investing for the tiny amount of extra speed it might give me versus actually if I just go and work on the engine instead of the bodywork, that actually the
sure.
car will get
Sure, sure,
faster.
sure.
But there's nothing like a shiny new bike or a new pair of runners, or it just gives you that little bit of joy, right? Sometimes they might actually work and make us faster. Sometimes they just make us feel good, and they both are equally good. And even if the kit that you want to buy doesn't actually make you faster, if it encourages you to get out and train like a demon for a month, that in itself is making you faster, right? So, yeah, I'm a big fan, and like we all had loads of money before we took up this sport. It's just something you have to come to terms with and
Right.
accept that it's it's part of the game, and we all love it.
Yeah, nothing like new running shoes to spruce up the run routine. And if you don't need new run shoes, don't have the budget for new run shoes, grab a couple pairs of really cool run socks from a high end run sock brand. When was the last time you refreshed your swimsuit lineup? Throw out those 2, 3 that you've been rotating and buy new ones. And go down to the pool. And something in the swim training, like every now and then I'll just buy a new pool toy, right? Like, I have fins, but I'll buy a different pair of fins that have a different shape. And just like having a new gadget to play with in one aspect of your training can sometimes really liven up the training for, like you said, a month or so in that one discipline. Coach Steven, have you done this? A little retail therapy
Yeah,
to,
yeah, I think we all have. Whether you need something, you want to go out there, you want to look fast, you want to really just kind of help motivate yourself. But I mean, again, I mean, it's kind of, just kind of lightheartedness, but it really does help motivation, right? Where you're kind of giving yourself that reward. Maybe it's even setting that as a reward, saying, hey, this year I'm getting a new bike helmet or I'm getting this new one. But having that and just kind of continuously rewarding yourself can help s- push you motivate you to kind of continue on, right? And so because you want to use it if you buy it, and that becomes the other
yeah.
part, right? Very few now. Every once in a while, you'll see somebody out there. Hey, I bought this bike and never used it, but if you go buy it, it's going to help motivate you. It's kind of like setting that race in front of you, but really kind of getting that new bike, new shoes, whatever it is, to help kind of keep that motivation in place.
Yeah, and there's you could be really creative with this, right? We've talked about some of the obvious ones like new run shoes, new run socks, new swim goggles, new bike gadgets. But just two other ideas that come to mind. This could be nutrition, right? Go to your local tri store, bike store. They usually have a lot of different products on the shelf. Go to something like thefeed.com where you can look at just a lot of different products at once and just order a variety of stuff, gels, chews, and you might find just a new product that just floors you, that becomes, a key part of your next race fueling plan. But at minimum, you'll have fun trying some new stuff over the course of your next training sessions. Another one that I think of is if you're doing some indoor training, like a lot of people like Zwift, some people are full gas truthers, some people love Ruby. But you can hop from platform to platform, right? Like I got to tell you, like I was on Zwift for a long time. I still am on Zwift. But when we integrated with full gas, where you could finally push your TriDot workout straight to full gas. We did a couple of podcasts with the full gas team. We got to know them a little bit, and I had never done full gas, but I was kind of curious to try it out. So I got full gas on my iPad, and for like 5 to 6 months, man, that really refreshed my pain cave routine.
Mm,
Instead of looking at my animated avatar in
mm,
Zwift Watopia, I was looking at like actual Ironman courses. And every single training session, I would fire up a different Ironman course. And I'm never going to go race Ironman Lahti in Finland, but I know what the course looks like, and that's kind of cool. I'm a geography nerd. And so something like that, maybe it's inverse. Maybe you're on a different one and you go to Zwift, just check out Zwift. But just thinking through the different ways to train that are out there and how can you freshen it up. That's a different form of retail therapy in my mind. So, way to prevent burnout, number 6. And I'm excited to hear you guys talk about this as coaches. Change the focus of your training, even for a short time. So we've talked about taking a break from the structured training, adding variety to the workouts, but this is a little different. We're still working out with intention, but we're kind of changing what we're focused on. How can this be beneficial to preventing burnout, and improving us as triathletes along the way? Coach Steven.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just use a real life example. I just came back from traveling over in Asia, and it's a little hard sometimes training while you travel, and just be able to go and do something a little different. I mean, I got to run around in Asia, because I wasn't able to cycle. I didn't bring my bike. I didn't care to sit on the one in the gym, right, with the fat, seat and the belt. But I really just my whole time for 10 days while I was traveling was just focusing on running. And I got back to the enjoyment of running. I was running in new places, but really kind of taking that as just as, maybe make it a little bit more real for a lot of folks, but really kind of going in and say, hey, I'm going to go focus this area, right? And say, hey, I want to go focus on swim because I know that's what I need to go work on. I want to go work on running. I want to go work on cycling, and it really just breaks up that monotony. And I think that's really what that's doing, is changing that focus to be able to break up that monotony and almost kind of give you that next goal to be able to go work towards. But again, I think there's a lot of different ways to apply that. Like I said, I just applied it while I was traveling, but it really just breaks up. And I'm like, I wanted to get back on my bike this morning. I mean, I wanted to be able to go
Yeah,
do it. All
yeah,
right. Just to be able to kind of change that up, just kind of really just says, hey, makes that excitement. I actually want to go back to the pool tomorrow. I'm not a great swimmer and I hate swimming, but I mean, it's like I want to go back to the pool and to be able to go spend that time. So, kind of switching that around and always kind of taking that break. I mean, this is where, you're going to have to work with, different people to be able to kind of shift that around because you can't overdo it also. That's the other part. Like if you're not used to running all of that, you may not be able to go run for 7 days straight. Right. So I think that's something you also got to pay attention to, even though you're shifting that focus. But it just gives you an opportunity to break up the monotony of just, hey, run, bike, swim, and kind of doing that rotation.
yeah. No, love that. It's something I did for a summer. I had one summer here in hot, sunny Texas where I took an extra emphasis on doing my run drills. And we all know, you fire up your try out run session, and there's going to be a handful of run drills as part of your warm up routine, and those get you warmed up for the workout, but they also have a lot of benefits for reinforcing good
Mhm.
form, connecting neural pathways. We have podcast episodes about it. Da 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 da. And I always do. I usually do my run drills, but sometimes there's more intention than others, and I'm more focused in that
Yeah.
time period than others, right? And so I took a summer a few years back, and I really was like, man, I'm gonna be extra intentional with my run drills. I'm gonna do extra run drills just on afternoons where I have a pocket of 10, 15 minutes to just get in the driveway and do some extra run drills. And I just want to see what difference it makes. And man, did that liven up my run workouts. I was still doing my run workouts, but it really like you just talked about, Steve, I was excited to get out there and just see,
Get
okay,
back.
let me get out there and do it. Let me get out there and it just gave me so I think that can be really powerful, as for folks who maybe struggle with their swim. You always have swim drills thrown in. Spend a block of training where, man, you even if you don't get your full workout in, really focus on your swim drills for a little bit. Really focus on your bike form, your bike handling for a little bit. There's some exciting things that you can do here to add some extra intentionality to your training for a little while. Coach Matt, what do you think here? What do you have your athletes do to kind of change up the focus and what they're thinking about in their sessions?
Yeah, look, I think we're at that time of year, aren't we, for Northern Hemisphere athletes? We're entering the off season, and classically, we all go right. We're going to stop skipping all those strength sessions that we don't do. Uh, no, no, no. We'll do them honestly, but yeah, with like it's that time of year where we focus on that, and it's really easy to sit and say, right, I'm really going to nail it, knuckle down, and do my strength. I think I'm really going to work on my swim technique in the pool, but it's a really easy thing to say and a less easy thing to actually then make yourself do if you're in the bad habits of not doing those or not doing those with as much intention as you want. So we talked before about different races. So, look outside of triathlon and do a high rocks or do a CrossFit or do a
Yeah. Yeah.
obstacle course race or have something that means that you don't just have that kind of New Year's resolution mentality of I'm going to work on this winter, but actually put something in the diary that means you've got no choice and you have to. So yeah, I'm a big believer in that.
Way to prevent burnout number 7, the final one on our list. And I'm not going to say much here. I'm going to step out of the way and let you guys address this one. Get a coach. It's get a coach. Now, if you have the budget for a coach, I don't want anybody overspending or blowing up the family budget because we say get a coach. That's part of the beauty of TriDot. You can have great training at very practical price points. But if you can afford a coach, coaches are invaluable. And they can really help prevent burnout if you're starting to feel that way, because they can help you do a lot of the things we've talked about today. Coach Matt, what would you say about getting a coach in terms of livening up your triathlon routine?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's a couple of things there, right? Firstly, the reason we're coaches is we've been there and done that. So we've all of those things that you perhaps if you're training away on your own are feeling and not sure if is this normal, is it not normal? I don't really know. The coach has been there and done it and probably felt those same things as you, but they're also coaching a group of other athletes who are also probably feeling those same things as you at similar points in the year. So that shared knowledge is the first bit. And accountability and encouragement, it's a big part of why you're paying for a coach. It's literally our job to help you through those periods where there's a bit of burnout or a bit of lack of direction. So again, the coach that's part of what you're paying for a coach for. Obviously, it's the technical side as well, but a lot of people use a coach to help specifically with this topic and to help encourage and support. But also, we also touched on it earlier in the pod as well. Most coaches will have a reasonably big group of athletes as well, and it's plugging into their community as well, and that can also help becoming part of something bigger. I'm really fortunate at Precision. It's not just me, but we've got 12 coaches now, so it's a really big community. So again, it's plugging into something and feeling part of something a bit bigger than you on your own, plowing a sort of a lonely furrow out there on your own.
Yeah. When you hear coaches on the TriDot podcast, 99% of the time they are working with TriDot, and I know them. I endorse them. If you ever click with somebody or just really like the advice you're hearing from somebody, reach out to them. They can absolutely become your triathlon coach. That's for sure. Stephen, you were a longtime triathlete before you became a coach. And you obviously know the value of it and want to help other people as well. What would you say here in terms of how a coach can really help liven up your triathlon routine?
Yeah, Matt highlighted some key things, but a couple of others is number one being objective, right? I mean, a coach gets to step above and kind of look at the holistic aspect of an athlete, right? And sometimes as an athlete, you get stuck in and very close to your own views, right? And so you got to have something that's a little bit more objective, and a coach can help you do that. The other thing is the personalization that a coach brings, right? The coach can actually help make some different recommendations. Matt highlighted that, yes, we've been through it. We have other athletes that's been through it, but be able to make some personalization for that athlete and say, hey, maybe go do a run session all this week, right? Or go do a swim session, or hey, go try something a little bit different, like high rocks, or doing some of those different things. And I think that's what the value of a coach ends up bringing, right? I mean, yes, it's the experiences, but it really kind of being objective and really help making something more personalized for that individual athlete.
Final question of our main set that I really just want to hear personally from you guys. Coach Steven, what has kept you personally? What's the number one thing that's kept you in the sport this long?
I think consistency, when I kind of, kind of reflect back, it's really trying to make it a lifestyle, right? Being consistent and realizing, I use this all the time. It's progress over perfection. We got to step back and realize that it's not always going to be perfect. You're going to have these ups and downs. It's not just a straight line going up, right? And so I think, reminding myself to be consistent, realizing that, hey, it may not just be that hour workout, but saying, hey, can I just get 30 minutes in? And making it truly part of my lifestyle has just been the biggest part. Like, I mean, if I don't work out now, it's like I know I'm missing something. And so it's become part of my day to be able to go and do those different things. So being consistent has been really the biggest part, and realizing that it doesn't have to be perfect.
Coach Matt, the number one thing that's kept you in the sport this long, what is it?
We've talked about it quite a bit already, but
The
community.
TriDot podcast.
When I
The TriDot podcast.
well, TriDot podcast is a very good example of this. It's the community. It's the doing it together. What's the African proverb? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And it's
Love it.
even as a coach, even when I ignore me in triathlon as an athlete, and me in triathlon as a coach, I started on my own, and it was very lonely. And then I had this opportunity to join precision coaching, and now there's 12 of us. There's hundreds of athletes. There's 12 of us as coaches, and I undoubtedly have far more love for the sport and will be in it now for the rest of my days because I'm part of something bigger. So yeah, for me, and we are all different, but for me, it's the community that keeps me energized and excited, and can't wait for the next big challenge.
On to the cool down of our show, and we're going to close out by asking a question from the audience to you guys. I saw this question on our Facebook group, and it was such a great question. I decided to throw it out on the podcast to the two of you. Jason says, I've only been riding a tri bike for the past 2 years. I now have a gravel bike and would prefer to do some outdoor riding instead of all indoor trainer rides. If I'm sticking to kind of paved and well-packed gravel roads, can I alternate between my tri bike and my gravel bike and still use TriDot? If I do, should I retest on the gravel bike to have different power goals for each? What do you guys think of this? What do you guys think of kind of having very different? We talked about adding some variety to your training today, so I thought this was an applicable question. If somebody wants to kind of add some variety to their bike sessions by training in different environments on different bikes, what's the best way to do that while maintaining the integrity of your TriDot workouts? Coach Steven.
Yeah, I mean, number one, yes, you can absolutely transition between your tri bike and gravel bike. So I think that's not really a question. I would ask, and again, it always depends, but what really are the main goals? Where are you at in your training cycle? I mean, again, power is power, heart
Yeah.
rate is heart rate. It doesn't matter. And I personally would not recommend doing a separate FTP test on that gravel bike because you don't want to change your power zones. And fundamentally, you should be kind of maintaining the same power zones for what you're racing for, especially if you're in that season. Now, if you're in maybe an out season, and kind of in that development phase, you could go and test on that gravel bike, but you want to kind of balance. And again, not changing your power zones overall for what you're trying to train for.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think redoing that FTP test just kind of adds an unnecessary layer of complication to the whole mix. And there's a TriDot ambassador named David Pagan, who's an officer in the U.S. Navy. And something that I've heard him say many times that I loved is he looks at the principle of commander's intent, right? When I'm out in the field, like I've got to make calls, and the decisions I make, I'm just trying to follow my commander's intent. And he applies that to his TriDot workouts. Okay, I may not get a 100 TrainX score, but if I followed the intent of the workout and gotten a pretty good score, I'm happy with that. And so if you, do a session indoors in erg mode and score 100, great. If you do that same session a month from now and do it outside on your gravel bike on a well-packed gravel trail and score a 78, because your intervals weren't quite perfect, but they were pretty good, well, you still followed the intent of the workout and you've done a good job and
Yep.
you've added variety to your training and you're going to be happier and healthier for it. So, I would say don't stress about it. Do the best you can when you go out on that gravel bike to replicate the workouts, but have a good time. Enjoy it. Coach Matt, over to you for your thoughts and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, echo all of the above. Different workouts have different goals. So yeah, the intent of the workout. If you're mixing it up and you want to sort of switch from one to the other, your midweek interval rides where you really want to hit those intervals, stick to the indoor trainer, the TT bike on the indoor trainer. When you want to go out and do your longer rides and you want to soak up some nature, get some sunshine or some cold and wet drizzle if you're here in the UK, then it's quite likely that session is going to be a heart rate based session anyway. So your FTP really doesn't matter. So just get the Garmin watch on, measure your heart rate, off you go, enjoy some trails, enjoy some scenery, and get some vitamin D as well, hopefully while you're at it. And yeah, the intention of the workout is exactly the point. Horses for courses, as they say. But yeah, definitely wouldn't, unless you're making a very permanent switch from one to the other and not planning on swapping back and forth, then leave it as it is, and go and do your best, and yeah, get as close to the intention of the workout as you can without getting stressed.
Thanks for listening to the TriDot podcast. Help us out by leaving a rating and review on your listening platform of choice. For more opportunities to learn from our coaches, check out our YouTube channel and follow TriDot Training on social. Ready to train with us? Head to TriDot.com and get started for free. Until next time, happy training.